Welcome to season 3 of the Iceman Podcast. My name is Brett Arkelian. Kick your feet up, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Iceman Podcast.
First thing we'll always talk about in our special teams, you better speak it into existence. If you can't speak it, you can't do it. And when you speak it, you better be able to speak it fast.
Welcome, specialists, coaches, dads of kickers, moms of punters, relatives of long snappers, and dogs that shag kickoffs to the now Iceman Podcast. All right. We're not just doing specialists and special teams. We're hitting a wide array of coaching, of life lessons. And I am very excited to have an esteemed guest with me, Coach Todd Goebbel from NC State, the running back and special teams coordinator. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is awesome, man. I'm excited to do it and got a lot of respect for what you've done and this podcast and all those things. So I'm excited to get going. Let's have a little fun with this thing.
Let's do it. Let's let it rip. Hey, first, before I get into it, and thank you. Those are kind words. And we've been trying to get Coach Goebbel on. I know he's a busy man, so we're fired up that he can be here. Let me talk a little bit about where Coach Goebbel has been. He spent time at a couple different Division III universities in Ohio, Worcester, Tiffin, Quincy, then went to Ohio State, spent time at Marshall in his first stint, Ohio Dominican, back to Marshall, and then NC State. And some of the notable things that he accomplished, he was the recruiting coordinator in 2016 at Marshall, signing 4 four-star prospects. They led the nation in 2015 in special teams efficiency under Coach Goebbel, and they were 21st in 2018, so 2 top 25 finishes. At NC State, man, they've had loads of talent and production. Punter Trenton Gill went in the 7th round. As a freshman, he averaged 47 yards of punt, Chris Dunn, this most recent season, was the 2022 Lou Groza winner, and he's also coached at Ohio State. Mike Nugent, right, Coach?
Yep.
Mike Nugent.
Oh, yeah.
Not only just specialists, though. He has had tight ends who've been all-conference, and now he's working with the running backs. So a long list of awards that I could spend all day on there, Coach.
I appreciate it. Like I said, always humbling. I tell people all the time, I said, the minute you think you did it, you're crazy. So it's a lot of credit to the players, a lot of credit to the coaches I've worked for, the cultures that have been set by the head coaches I've worked for, and I've worked for some really good ones. So I feel fortunate. I'm excited about just kind of how this thing's been going as far as the special teams. It's something that I take great pride in. Everywhere I've been, the good thing is the culture's been set by the head coach. They take great pride in it, which makes it a lot easier, as you know. And then every position I coach, that goes all the way back to my father's just saying, hey, you better embrace the young men that are in the room and enjoy being around them because they're counting on you to help them the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what? And I was going to bring this up a little bit later, but you hit on it already. Your father was a coach for 40-something years in the Ohio area, and he coached some notable players, none other than Archie Griffin. Now, wanted to ask you, because you've had a lot of success, what is it like coaching some of the best athletes, and what is your approach? How is it different? How is it the same? What did you learn from your dad about that?
Well, first and foremost, you better gain their trust. Especially this day and age. It used to be just tell them what to do and they did it. I think now they got to know why they got to do it. They got to know that you have their back. I think there's got to be a genuine trust, respect. And I use trust and respect. I said, not always do you have to like or love, but trust and respect is something you got to have with your players, and it's got to be reciprocal. And trust is gained over time. And I think the only way you gain your players' trust is be consistent in who you are as a person, the message in which you deliver each day, and make sure whatever standard you set, you better stay with it and stick with it, no matter what the situation or circumstance. And if you do that, I think young people today will buy in and they'll work as hard as they need to. And then the other thing that they better understand from you is whatever their goals and dreams are have become yours, and you're going to work together to achieve them.
No doubt. I think that is huge, and that has definitely changed in the coaching landscape. What did your dad learn from working with, or what did he teach you in general about coaching?
What my dad has always taught me is it better be about the players, and they've been turned over to you, whether it's mother, father, grandmother, aunt, uncle. Somebody has turned that young man over to you. And my father said this, and it was just kind of funny. Coach Dorn says it all the time to our staff: is at the end of the day, would you want to be coached by you? And I think that's a really look in the mirror reflection attitude. Is we all think we got all the answers and everything we say is the right thing, but at the end of the day, would you want to be coached by you? The way you talk to them, the way you interact with them, the things you demand from them. If you say, okay, I like that as a person, I like that as a coach, I would love for somebody to do that for me, then I think it's the right thing to do. So those are the things that I've learned from my dad, and just the consistency. The one thing my dad has always talked to me about is consistency. Who you are, what you are, the message in which you deliver better be consistent, and nothing should deter you from that.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. It's such a simple concept, but I've never heard it before, and I've never heard it put that way. And that makes me, opens my eyes to a lot of things coaching wise. So that's really cool. Okay. So we normally start with the heavy hitters section, coach, but you got me off on a little tangent there. But now I'm going to bring you a new heavy hitters section brought to you by the Kicker's Bible. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. So how do you say, when you're coaching, when you're out there, how do you stay so energetic? And when will Zipfizz healthy energy drinks reach a sponsorship deal with you? I heard that's your go-to.
There's a combo of Zipfizz and Spark. I don't think anyone should consume as much caffeine as I do in a daily deal, but no, I think I have internal energy. I don't think it always needs to be manufactured by caffeine. But yeah, Zipfizz, if they want to throw a sponsor my way, I'll take it.
Hey, come on now. We'll get it.
That's
We'll get
right.
it going.
Energy is contagious. And it needs to start early in the morning when they walk into the special teams meeting. I stand outside the door every day, and at the end of the day, in my opinion, you create the attitude and the culture in which they walk into, and how you act, how you relate, and the energy in which you bring. Usually, it's matched by young people that respect and trust you.
Yeah, in my short time in college football, that's the best coaches are always bringing that energy and bringing the juice, especially when it's tough. I'm sure you guys do meetings, 6 or 7 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, we do them early in the morning, but thank goodness. Now, if we had meetings after 9 o'clock, I'd be worthless. But anything in the morning, I got plenty of energy. And I tell our young people when they walk in the door, I said, if you need energy, just touch my shoulder. I'll give it to you. I got enough for everybody. So that's how we get the party started early in the morning. We create an atmosphere in that room to wake everybody up. And credit to the players, they bought in, and we have a lot of fun. Usually between 7 and 8 a.m.
That's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I like that saying. Touch my shoulder. I'll shock you. Give him some energy. So talk to me a little bit about your playing career too, coach. I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time, but I don't want to leave this out. You were a MVP your sophomore season at Kent State in 1996. Which I saw your doing some digging. I saw your highlight tape. Foo Fighters Learn to Fly was on that tape. I don't know if you made that, but that is freaking awesome. Talk a little bit about the highlight tape and your playing career.
Well, to this day, I don't know who made the highlight tape, ironically enough, but I do know it was made by somebody. I'll get to my concussion part of it, but that's probably why I don't remember. But I went to Delaware Heights High School. Wanted to play quarterback my entire life. Didn't get to actually to play until my senior year. I played wide receiver. I played free safety. Actually got recruited for free safety a lot more than I ever did quarterback. But my senior year, played quarterback the entire time. Had 3 scholarships offered to me at quarterback. Kent being one of them. The only Division I offer I had. Went to Kent State. Redshirted my freshman year. Got a chance to get on a roll. My redshirt freshman and sophomore. Junior year, at the end of the day, I got knocked out by Marshall. Ironically enough, that's why they owed me a job. And I tell them all the time the reason they gave me 2 stints is because they felt bad because they knocked me out. Played against a guy named Randy Moss. He was pretty good. I wish I had him. I might still be playing quarterback.
Coach, what do you remember about that game when you guys did play Marshall? I mean, from what you do remember.
Ironically enough, not much. I said it was an interesting game. We had no chance. And I got knocked out. It was the only televised game I think we ever played at Kent. Not because of me, I promise you that. It was because of Randy Moss and Chad Pennington and the guys on the other side. So I got the luxury of getting knocked out, zoomed in on, mouthpiece on eye, eyes rolled back. And to be quite honest with you, that was kind of the last game I played at Kent. A guy by the name of Jose Davis. Hate to say it, as any young person would admit it, but Jose Davis was probably a better quarterback than I. took over, had a great career. Still to this day, I have a lot of respect for Jose Davis. So I made a decision my senior year to transfer to Northern Iowa. Unfortunately, 3 games into my career at Northern Iowa, I was playing well and got hit again. So unfortunately, concussions kind of set me back there. Took a year off, started my coaching, knew what I wanted to do, started into coaching. Talked to my agent. He said, "Do you want to play in the Arena League?" Went there for a cup of coffee and said, "Okay, I've had enough." And honestly, made the best decision of my life and got into this coaching thing full time. And it's been in my blood. It's been in my family. And that's kind of a Cliff Note version of my career. So that's where I'm at to this day, 46 years of age and rocking and rolling.
That's freaking awesome. That's kind of a really cool path too, because you don't really see quarterbacks with the special teams. What do you remember about the Buffalo Destroyers? You got one good story from the Buffalo Destroyers?
Yeah, Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator at LSU now, was the defensive coordinator at the time, and Brownie Nagel, the guy at the Jets at one time from Louisville, was the starting quarterback. I was his wily backup, and I think the head coach wanted to get rid of me from day one. And God bless Mike Denbrock. I think he fought for me for a couple of weeks, and I think he lost the fight, and then they donated me back to society. So again, short stint, cup of coffee, but it was all good. I learned a lot, and to this day, I respect Mike Denbrock for at least fighting for me for those 2 weeks. I got a nice hotel, stay at the Marriott, and call it a day.
Hats off to Mike Denbrock. Hey, and you got your pro football stint, so you are.
I did.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, okay. So now getting a little bit more into the coaching realm, like you said, you've kind of bounced around. You've done this, special teams is its own thing. And I know a lot of people that listen or have been around special teams. It's really, its own identity. People don't come to NC State to play special teams, right? They come to play offense or defense. How do you motivate your guys? How do you create excitement? You hit on that a little bit in the special teams room.
I think first and foremost, it better start with the program and the head coach. And I've been very fortunate. Coach Dorn has been absolutely wonderful. He's made it important. He shows the importance of it. He speaks the importance of it. And I think it has to start there. As much as we all have egos and think we can, flip the world inside out, the head coach needs to create the culture. And then it's my job to carry it into the room. And then it's got to be, and I use this term all the time. It's got to be player-led, culture-driven. It's not coaches-led. It's player-led, culture-driven. And your job is to gain the trust and the respect of your players. You need to use every minute that you have with them, any situation that arises, to show them, not talk to them, show them the importance of why field position is so important. Offense and defense are great. They're a lot of fun, but not every play averages 40 yards of good and bad. And that's something that we continue to visually show them, verbally, share with them over and over again of all the situations that, hey, if you guys take great pride in this, we're going to win a lot of games. And on top of that, if you're not a top 25 pick and you put good special team stuff on it, you are creating value for yourself. If you create value for yourself, you're putting money in your pocket. And everyone comes to college. Let's call it what it is. Everyone comes to college to make it to the NFL. Well, unless you're a top 25 pick at your position, you better bring special teams value. So we sell, I guess sell is about as good as a word. We sell that vision. If these are the things you do, not only are you going to help NC State win, you're going to help your value as you move forward in your career. And it's permeated throughout that room. And the cool thing, and I got to give a lot of credit, not only to Coach Dorn, but the assistant coaches. It's being a special teams coordinator. You're literally a head coach in regards to making sure you create a culture. And then your assistant coaches that help you on the special teams, you got to relay the right message. And I got tremendous assistants that are willing to go out there and put their best foot forward. Guys with more experience. I got Joe DeForest on my staff. We got Joe DeForest on my staff. Joe DeForest knows more special teams than I'll ever know. And I go over and I ask him to do something, and the guy goes out there and just it's unbelievable to watch these guys buy in. And I appreciate that because it definitely helps me out a ton when the head coach and all the assistants that are involved with it buy into it as much as I do.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I mean, I've seen that too from bouncing around a couple places. Is yes, it's all about the players buying in and the coaches buying in, but more so the assistants that are helping you. I mean, apart from the coaches creating that buy-in, what do you do? Do you take the assistant coaches out to lunch, everyone out to a singular lunch, or how do you create them, getting interested in buying into that part of special teams?
I don't bother them. I think their time's very valuable. They got the expertise on offense and defense, and I get my message across within the meeting. They're all in the God bless them. They're all in the meeting with me, so they see what we're going to practice, what we're going to do, and at the end of the day, they take great pride. And if there's something that we got to get fixed, I kind of do it on an individual basis, so I don't eat up their time. And I think by not doing that, and they can focus on offense and defense. And then when they have their time, they know, hey, this needs to get fixed. This technique needs to be taught. Just respecting them, respecting their time. I think they're excited to go out. We all love to be on the grass and coach. So don't bore them in the meetings. Don't bore them in the office. Let them do what they need to do, and then they'll give you your best on the field.
Yeah, man, that's really good advice. I've never really thought about it or heard it put that way before, but I love it. So talking about practice, and a lot of times places I've been, it'll be like just walking through drills and trying to get through. How do you make sure you guys are playing fast and physical when it comes to special teams, but not creating penalties or turnovers?
First thing we'll always talk about in our special teams, you better speak it into existence. If you can't speak it, you can't do it. And when you speak it, you better be able to speak it fast. I'll give you an example. So we talk about how to strike a person. Loaded strike is the word we use. It permeates throughout the room. Everyone knows what a loaded strike is. It's thumbs up, elbows tight, hairline below the chin, active feet and hands. And our kids need to regurgitate that. They need to spit it back. Well, we want to make sure you speak it so we can speak it into existence. That existence is action. And so everything we do within the meeting is interactive. We make, hey, I'll say it, you speak it. Now you got to go do it as fast as you spoke it. And it's again, I keep going back to the word culture. It's a culture in which we've set that at the end of the day, I need 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes of the best version of yourself. I'm not going to ask for any more. I'm not going to ask for any less. You give me 5 minutes. Whatever I ask of you, go do it as hard as you can with the best fundamentals you can. Speak it, do it, execute it at a high level with a lot of efficiency. If you can get that done within 5 minutes, I'm not going over. I'm not taking extra reps. And our kids have bought into that philosophy that we're an up-tempo special teams type attitude when it comes to executing and putting the product out on the field.
Yeah, 100%. That's huge. I think that the players buy into that aspect and they get really, when they know that the standard is super high, they tend to perform up to that standard. And I know some of the stuff that you guys did, I was lucky enough to follow up you when you left from Marshall. It might have been the year after, 2 years after, when you went to NC State. Some of the same technique and terms that Coach Holiday liked to use. The 15 or more, backdoor, 15 or less, button press. I mean, those guys played so fast, and I was like, man, this is a good system. These are good coaching points. So, did you enjoy your time in Huntington? Did you like living in Huntington, West Virginia?
I did. I think when you're in college coaching, you want to be at a place, whether it's NC State, Marshall, where what you do on Saturday matters. It's not so much where you live; it's the community around you. At NC State here, goodness gracious, it doesn't matter. Who we're playing, what we're playing, we're sold out. The fan base here is outstanding. They care, they're passionate. Same thing at Marshall. They care, they're passionate. They live for Saturdays. And as a coach, as many hours as you put in, as a player, as many hours as you put in, the last thing you want to do is show up on a Saturday and no one cares what you're doing. So pretty fortunate at working at some really good places that the fan base every Saturday for 3.5 hours, it matters.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that. I have to ask you too, a little bit off topic, Coach, but did you feel a little bit like Jack Langell in the movie Where Marshall, where he goes from College of Wooster to Marshall at one point? I know it was a different time period, but you made that move just like in the movie. What did that feel like?
I never really thought of it. Never really thought of it that way. But Yeah, I got Jack Lingle. I got a chance to meet him, and I was there actually when they made the We Are Marshall movie, my first time there, and what a what an interesting event that was. Just in regards to the passion of the community toward it. Matthew McConaughey, of course, just knocked it out of the park and did a great job. And we actually, we had a linebacker that just got done playing that now is, I think, in LA doing well as an actor that was in the movie. So there was a lot of unique things, Matthew McConaughey coming into the building as Matthew McConaughey, and then next thing you know, he's in the building as Jack Lingle because he wouldn't come out of character until he's done shooting. So, there was so many things involved with that. That was pretty cool, but never did I think I was a Jack Lingle person, but I can see the correlation.
And that is so cool. That growing up, I was always a huge college football fan, and that was by far my favorite movie. It came out when I was in sixth grade, and a kid from California, it doesn't seem like it would resonate, but oh my God, we had it on DVD, and I almost broke the dang box of how many times we watched it. That was, yeah. And that when I got to Marshall, that was one of the things I thought about. I didn't think I was Jack Langell, but I definitely listened to the soundtrack walking around the building. That's so cool, though. Everyone on the staff I was with obviously had not been there during that time period. Did you have any good stories? Did you run into Matthew McConaughey in town or something, or did you ever see them shooting in town?
Yeah, I did. They were right there. Whether it was coming in and lifting in the building or coming in and watching, that spring game, there was 30,000 people. Matthew was one of the guest coaches, and I think Byron and Chad might have been the other coaches, and there were like 30,000 at the spring game. And then watching them shoot, just the diner scene. It's like 2 minutes of the movie, and it was like an hour and a half shoot. Just the professionalism, the detail in which they did. There's a reason McConaughey's who he is, and makes, I think, 20 million a film. So it was a unique time there, and a special story being told. And I don't think anybody that's a fan of football definitely understands the passion of the community and why and how it all came back.
Yeah, that's cool. And when I got there, I was surprised. It's almost the same. What you see in the movie is kind of like it. A little backstory: my brother in 2019 started his graduate degree. He's working on doctorate in physical therapy, and he actually graduated. He became part of the herd and graduated. And is back in California now. So I'd go visit him. And the first time getting into Huntington, I was like, man, this is straight out of the movie, like 1970. I know they shot it there, but everything looks like it hasn't changed since then, so crazy. But anyway, hey, you were on a podcast or a talk roundtable with Coach Lembo. You hit on a couple points about talking about how specialists are almost like baseball players, and I love the cross sport comparisons. Can you talk about that a little bit, or why you make that assumption?
Yeah, we treat kicker, or at least in my opinion, I think I don't like to use kickers, long snappers, or punters. I call them specialists. It's football players with special skills. I think you got to treat them very similar to pitchers. I think pitchers and specialists are very similar. They're perfectionists. They have a special skill, and they're never satisfied. And I think sometimes more than anything, you got to save them from themselves. There's a reason pitchers have pitch counts. And I've seen it more nowadays. Is kickers like to kick, punters like to punt, and snappers like to snap. That's what they do. But I think sometimes you got to save them from themselves, and you got to detail out a plan. And God bless Chris. He loved to kick, and those kickers do. And the best thing he did his senior year, and credit to Jackson White. Jackson White's the gentleman that's our analyst and does a wonderful job. We just sat down and we said, hey, we got to put you on a pitch count. And a kick count, I guess you would call it. But, I don't, he was one that if it didn't go, it went through, but if it didn't go through the way he wanted to, it's, let's two more to fix it. And the one thing we found out as the year went on, he wore down. And this year, he did a great job of buying in, and we did a good job of laying out the plan. And he actually got stronger as the year went on, and he took care of himself in regards to nutrition. And I think the same thing, if you always look around with pitchers, is there's certain number of pitches they're supposed to pitch per day. There's certain number, and because they got to last 100 games, or how many games they start, or how many games they relieve. And that's something that I've looked into, and Coach White has looked into dramatically, is what's a good number to get your work in in regards to live balls, whether it's taps for punters or taps for kickers or just line drops for punters. There's so many things you can do without the full swing because there's a ton of torque on your body. Kickoffs, we're very judicious in how we approach those. I think that's a dangerous thing to do if you're just letting a guy kick off a bunch. And what people forget is they use those kickers to kick the returners because they need return time. Well, that's 20 more swings and torque on your hips and your lower back and those things. So we're very, I don't want to say sensitive, but we're very sensitive to the amount of swings and the amount of snaps that our kids do because we want them to be at their best at the end of the season. We don't want them wore out middle of the season. So that's something that we look at really, really hard. And we call it a pitch count, but you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I think also you look at Chris's stats. I mean, he was 23 to 26 and 18, 21 to 24 and 19. And then, struggled a little bit, not struggled, but wasn't as accurate as he had been in last season. Just 96% on field goals. I mean, almost had 30 field goals. It's unreal. I got to think a lot of that came to with how you guys maintained him, and kept him going. Is there a general number? I'm not asking for Chris's number, but, if you're looking at a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in season, do you go, hey, 40 kicks here, 35, 30? Do you taper it down? What's your numbers for that?
I don't think you can lay out. I think it's individualized with the kid. I think you got to really, this is something I think Coach White did a really good job of. And again, a lot of credit to him and I working together of just sitting down and getting to know the kid. Each kid is so different. And to sit there and say, the one thing I don't think any specialist coach can do is blanket numbers or blanket routine. I think that's the worst thing you can do for specialists is there's a reason they got to you. They're working with somebody. There's a routine that they've been doing, those types of things. And I think you got to create, and we talk about it all the time. We don't coach these guys. We create a culture and an environment for them to succeed. And that's dealing with the specialist coach that has gotten them there. There's a routine that he's been involved with, working with those guys, not saying when you get to NC State, this is what you're going to do. This is how we do it. And so I think there's a lot of variables that go into what we do. And a lot of it is involving a lot of people for an individualized plan for that kid. And I think some people don't want to do that because it takes a little more time and effort. But they think to get the most out of your specialist is it has to be individualized plans. There's got to be a culture created around them of trust, of respect, that you're going to work with their team to get them to be the best version of themselves. And their team maybe it's a parent that's coached them. Maybe it's a specialist coach that's coached them up to this point. And then, okay, within all these things, let's go put a plan together what's best for you on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday. Ask them how they feel. Hey, how do you feel, coach? I'm a little fatigued. Okay, we're just going to do taps today. We're going to back off from the full kicks. Some people are very stubborn because they got this blanket plan for all specialists. This is how I've done it because this worked for this kid. So it got to work for this kid. I think the best thing you can do with your specialists is create a culture, listen to the people that have gotten them there, make them a part of the routine, and then on a weekly basis, set a plan together based on your knowledge of the kid, where he's at in his career, how he feels. And that's why it's a specialized position. It's very unique, very unique.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I had to learn the hard way, especially being an ex-specialist and coming into at Marshall, it's like, okay, this is the general plan of how we're going to do things. And I had to realize that was probably the hardest thing for me is like, hey, that not everyone's the same. Not everyone's these kicking coaches, think that everyone should do things how they did. That's not the case. So obviously you guys have found the one thing I like to do too is I can have my drills and stuff I like to do with them, but I'll show them the packet first and say, hey, you check off things that you like and that you've done before, and then things that you don't like. And then we'll talk about it and we'll help build a schedule. That's kind of what you're talking about there. When you say taps, coach, are you talking about like the no steps or one step?
Yeah. I think, I think you got to be very conscientious of the live reps and the full swings. I think that's more than, I think there's so much you can get done fundamentally. And I tell you, the one thing I've gotten to know real quick is less off the sticks, less full reps off the sticks. That's the one thing we've gone away from. A lot of these kids go to these kicking camps and all they're doing is kicking off sticks, full reps. So we try to eliminate a lot of the full reps off the sticks. Work your one step, work your plant foot, work your taps, all those things. And then when if it's time to hit the full ball, I want a snapper, I want a holder, and I think that's helped our guys too, that we're not kicking a ton off the sticks. Everyone warms up with them and I get all that, but I'm talking just practice reps. I rather you work short base fundamentals. And when you do live reps, full kicks, it's with a snapper and a holder. Because people talk about the kickers all the time. Chris Dunn, outstanding. Mike Nugent, outstanding. But what people forget about, those young people, those two guys had outstanding snappers and holders. You can talk about the special or the kickers all you want, but those guys are relying on two people before they get to do their job. And I've spent a lot more time studying holding than I ever have lately. The person that's holding, how is his relationship with the kicker, and also his fundamentals and techniques. And that came from Coach White. Coach White spends a lot of time with our holder more than we do our snapper and our kicker, because he is the intersect piece. The relationship aspect on and off the field, is he a good bridge between the two? Can he get those two on the same page? And then fundamentally, before we say, hey, you missed it, okay, let's look. Is it tilted wrong? Is it leaned forward? Was the laces still moving? We spend a lot more time studying the holder before we ever get to the kicker.
Yeah, that's valuable. I don't know, Coach White spent time as a holder for you guys at Marshall, and yeah, that's kind of not. Have you ever had a situation where you're like, you know what, this holder, bad relationship with the kicker, bad relationship with the snapper, we got to go some other direction? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I've had that twice in my career. That if I don't feel the relationship's trustworthy, or what I call loud or quiet holders. It's one thing getting the ball down, but body movement. People will look at holders, and if the ball gets down to the right spot, it's good. Well, that's not the case, because that ball's slightly off, and you're raising your shoulders or your arms are violent, and those things. I don't care what anyone says, that affects a kicker. So, in the holding department, the relationship, and when the ball's not on point, are you quiet with your body? And that's something I know myself and Coach White look at a bunch.
That's awesome. Dropping gems there, Coach. I love it. One thing too I've learned since I've been here too is the visibility for a kicker, right? Like, we should be doing everything we can, whether it's where the snap is or where the holder puts the ball down at, that the kicker has as much visibility as possible. It's just like a batter in baseball, seeing a fastball or a curveball. The more he can see it, the better chance he has at hitting it. Just like how pitchers do a really good job now of disguising from their arm angle where that ball is going to go. So crazy, the intersections of two different sports.
No, there's so much correlation. It's crazy. And anytime you can switch over and use another sport as an example, I think they listen pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if those guys have played two different sports. All right. So talk a little bit about, I know I've heard this story, I'm dying to hear it. How Mike Nugent and your guys' field goal at Ohio State versus Marshall got you the Marshall job.
Well, one, Mike was a special young man, tremendous athlete, tremendous football player in high school. I got him his last year. Glad it worked out for me. People say you coach Mike Nugent. I said, no, I was there and I assisted Mike Nugent. I made sure that he was available, did some corrections with him when need be, but to sit there and say I coached Mike Nugent, I need to humble myself a little bit. He was awesome. But no, he had the long one against Ohio or against Marshall. We needed it. I actually was in the press box, and I can tell you this much: I've never ever heard a ball through a press box, but when the ball came off the foot, all I said, and so did everyone else in the box, is, "That's good." So it was that definitive when he hit it. that it was smoked, hit it the right way, put it through. And the next thing I knew, myself and Coach Schneider were headed down to Marshall the following year. So I owe Mike a lot. I'm glad he made it. It gave us a good season. We ended up winning the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma State. But it was a good year. I learned a lot from Mike. That's kind of where my special teams thing started. And not only from Mike Nugent, the punter Kyle Toronto, but Coach Tressel. Coach Tressel is kind of, everyone knows Tressel ball. Play elite defense, play opportunistic offense, and play just dominant special teams. And I got to be a small part of that, but never really dealt a whole lot with special teams up until that point in my career, and fell in love with it. I was with a guy that taught me the importance of it, and then was around a bunch of coaches that coached with great pride doing it. So that stint coaching on the defensive side for the first time, and then coaching this, helping out with a specialist and really assisting with all the special teams is kind of where I got my start. And I owe a lot to Coach Dressel in regards to that.
Yeah. I know we kind of said at the start of the podcast that you've seen it all, done it all, but really coaching offense, coaching defense, spending times at different levels, whether it's D3 or the Big Ten, like that definitely gives you some great perspective as you go through your career. Do you feel like that's helped you a lot?
Yeah. I mean, it's humbling. You appreciate everything. I think, any time that you coach at all levels, and then, I call this kind of fantasy land, sometimes when you get a Power 5 job, help has help and those types of things. But you really do. It's humbling. And there's not a day that I don't walk in and appreciate Coach Dorn and the opportunity he gave me at NC State. And to be quite honest, all the other head coaches that I've worked for that gave me opportunities, because this is a hard business. And there's a lot of tough days. But if you put yourself around good people and they create a great environment, you're excited to go to work and help young men, accomplish their goals and dreams. If you have time to complain, that's your fault.
Yeah, I like that. I like that for sure. As far as working with Mike and then working with Chris and trying all the, a lot of the specialists, what was the common trait that they had? Was there a common theme or, common characteristic that they had or carried themselves with?
Yeah, they were football players. And that's, I don't say that sarcastically. They were football players. They were football players with a skill set. And that's what I've kind of dove into in the recruiting department is I want to find a football player with a skill set. And all of them had the same traits. They did a lot of things in the dark. They loved the limelight. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking ego. I'm just talking, hey, put me out there, coach. I'll make the punt. I'll hit the punt when need be. I'll hit the winning kick when need be. What do you need, coach? They just had that about them. And then not only did they have the confidence about themselves, whether it went good, because they all had their ups and downs in their career, but they always stepped out there for the next one. Whether it was Trent hitting an average punt in his world, the next punt, he walked out of there like he's going to hit that 55-5-0 ball. Chris, whether he made it, missed it. I've told this story many times. The best kick of Chris's life was the one in overtime at North Carolina, because he went an entire year and finally missed one. And to be able to go that long without miss one in a rivalry game, the only miss of the year, and then to come back, and we needed every kick he had in overtime to win. And for him to get that done, that just shows you a lot about the young man. Same thing, Mike had the same thing about him. If you need a game winner, put him out there. You felt really good when he jogged onto the field. Him and Chris. Same thing with Trent in the punting game. You felt really good that something special was going to happen. So that's just kind of the similar trait of all three of them, of just guys you had talked about.
Yeah, that's really cool. With Chris too, and that missing that, that field goal against North Carolina, did you have to say anything to him? Did you have to do, how do you help guys out of a situation like that? Or is it just in their system?
I think you got to look. I think less words are better. I think in the whole specialist world, less is more. I think too many times people think they're going to speak them into improvement. And sometimes it's better just to leave them alone and let them figure it out themselves. But you could tell in Chris's demeanor. You could tell after Chris's misses whether he was good or not. And 99% of the time, I'd say Chris is like, you know what? Let me get to the next one. That he craved that. He craved, hey, give me another one. And that's what made him special. Is if you crave the next one after a miss, there's something about you. Everyone uses the it factor. Still don't know what that is, but maybe that's it. Hey, if I make a mistake, do I get another one? And if I get another one, I'm ready. Let's go. So that's the special character of all of them guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you also talked about too on that podcast with Coach Lembo about doing the boring things. How do you keep those guys motivated when they've had success, to keep doing the boring things and keep every day that consistency, hammering it through their head? How do you keep them on that path?
Not talking about it, the consistency of the routine. I think sometimes the process word is used a little overused at times, but just staying in a consistent routine. If you're result driven, you're going to be depressed. If you're consistent, if you're routine driven, you have a tendency to have continued success. Situation and circumstance should never dictate anything. Stay true to who you are, stay within your routine, stay consistent in that. And at the end of the day, you're going to have consistent success moving forward. You start becoming result driven or situation driven or circumstance driven, there's a chance you're going to be pretty inconsistent and up and down a bunch. And that's something that we talk to our special. That's any athlete, any athlete. If you stay within a routine, you stay consistent in who you are, and you're not circumstance or result driven, you're routine driven, you got a chance to sustain success.
Yeah, I 100% believe that, and especially with specialists, because it can, in their minds, get monotonous. But if you're falling in love with, I know you don't like calling it the process. I don't know what another good word for it is, but I agree with you 100%. Falling in love with the day-to-day things and not the result.
Yeah, just have a routine. Yep. Whatever your routine is that you've created for yourself, like you said, fall in love with it and just keep executing it. Mm-hmm. Keep executing. It's gotten you this far. There's a reason you're elite. So stay true to it. Stay true to it and then embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I love that. All right, Coach. Well, we've gone through a lot of stuff here. I'm going to hit you with the rapid fire section brought to you by the Kickers Bible. You good with that? So I'm good. Left and right, man. I'm going to be throwing them at you, and you can give, a few word responses or a phrase, or you can divulge into it a little bit, but I'm trying to, keep you off balance here and give you some curveballs.
Okay.
Here. All right. So you ready for this? My first question, what is a howitzer on punt?
Howitzer? Oh, that's 55-0. It's got to go.
It's got to go. It's got to go. It's a friggin' rocket. Love it. Love it. Okay. When you're talking, what do you think you guys do the best with the Wolfpack there when it comes to specialists that helps them the most? Is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? What do you think your guys' go-to is?
We create a culture of confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love it. The culture is huge. How do you help your specialists perform under high pressure situations? Is it something that's talked about?
Routine based, not result based.
Routine based. Love it. Love it. Okay. What is the first thing that you would do as a head coach to help build the culture?
Hire an unbelievable strength coach.
Yep. They always say strength coach, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. Those are important. Okay. Talk about analytics in this new world of coaching, and that's more of a head coach thing, but how much do you use that? Do you get into that much at all?
Analytics has a part in the game, and I know it's becoming more of a part of the game, and I get it. And there's definitely a lot of value in it. But we are still playing with human beings, and we are still playing with human nature. And as much as I respect analytics, and I think analytics definitely has a lot of value, it's used the right way. I think there's definitely got to be a respect for still the game of football in regards to young people that are 18 to 22 years old, with crowd noise, emotions, those types of things that definitely are factors as well. I think both things got to equally be a part of your decision-making process as you move forward.
Sure. Sure. And even in breaking down an opponent, right? I mean, you could look at statistics all you want, but at the end of the day, you got to put on the film and watch what they're really doing. What are they really trying to get out of this formation or technique, right?
Yeah, I don't look at a stat until I watch an entire game of special teams. I want to see just the mentality. So I'll pick whatever probably the best opponent they've played up to that point, and I'll tell them to put it in chronological order, and I watch a game so I get a kind of a feel for the other special teams coordinator, the personnel, the way they come out, their mindset, how they come out of the half. Just I want a game feel for the players, the personnel, the coach that we're going against. But I'll watch that before I look at a single statistic of anything.
Man, I love that. That's some good food for thought. Because if you're watching a whole season or, games in chronological, you can get lost in what's really going on in the game. What about, okay, we're almost done here. What was the most successful or memorable play you've experienced when you've been at NC State, while you've been at NC State?
I would have to say 2 years ago, we thought we could get one. It was in the rivalry game against the other team. And a guy by the name of Jordan Houston on their first punt came off the zone side, did everything right fundamentally, got off on the snap, blocked the punt, we scored a touchdown. That's how we started the game. So I think so many memorable moments, a lot of great wins and all those things since I've been here. But to start a game like that in regards to kicking off, down in them inside the 25, 3 and out, block a punch, score a touchdown. If you're a special teams coordinator, you'd sign up for that scenario a whole day and twice on Sunday.
Twice on Sundays. Love that. Love that. All right. Finally, this last question. What are your goals for your special teams unit in this upcoming season?
To play fast, physical, and smarter. And when I mean smarter than the opponent in which we're playing. If we can play fast, we can play physical, we can play fundamentally sound. And the smart part, I always finish with. I don't start with. I always finish with when I'm talking to these guys. And the reason for it is there are more penalties generated on special teams, in my opinion, than any offense and defense. And the chunks in which you lose, because everything seems to be like a 15-yard penalty on special teams. I mean, it can be devastating to field position. So we spend a lot of time talking about smart football. And anytime we finish, it's fast, physical, fundamental, and smart. We'll always finish with smart so they understand the importance. And that's the last thing we leave them with.
Right.
And there's always a saying, you can make a mistake, but you can't make a disaster. And when in doubt, don't.
When in doubt, don't. I love that. And that way, too, they're not overthinking, right? Because that's not the first thing in their mind. They're going to play fast, they're going to play hard, and then they're going to play smart there. Love that. Love that, Coach. Well, hey, thanks so much, man, for coming on. It's definitely an honor to have you on here. Your humility and the way you carry yourself is pretty cool, and it gives me something to aspire to be like. And I'm sure the viewers are going to get a ton out of this. So thank you again for coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug or anything going on in your life that you like to mention?
No, just always and forever. If you're in this business, just be grateful for where you're at and enjoy the young people that you're around and you get to mentor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Coach. That has been Todd Goebbel from NC State. A word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by The Kicker's Bible. The Kicker's Bible. Ever wondered about how many kicks you should do during practice after pulling your quad multiple times? Repeatedly snapping the ball over your punter's head? Keep getting dumped by all your girlfriends for missing kicks? Well, we can't help with all those things. But for some of those, there's The Kicker's Bible. Proven training methods and secrets used by NFL specialists. Written by yours truly, Brett Arkellian. With over 20 NFL specialist accounts, including personal excerpts from record-setting and Hall of Fame specialists David Akers and Shane Graham. If you are interested in any of these fantastic tips and excerpts discussed in this episode, visit icemanKicking.com or go to my Twitter bio, Iceman_kicking.